So hi guys, it's me Deepak, and this video is about building an Android application where I'll be using an XML file. So I actually wanted to show you this Android application where I used XML of a international news website, so you can view news which will be refreshed every time you load it because it's online. You are getting data from an online so I couldn't because it's copyrighted, so I don't want to get it. I don't want to get sued or something like that. So I'm just showing that, but I can show you the same phenomena, the same mechanism. So this is the Apple XML file. Where you can just search Apple RSS feed and go on this top 10 song list that I'll be using to build an application that will show you the top 10 songs on Apple. And I'm using this XML file. As you can see here in the entry tag, you can see updated ID, title, link. So I'll be just using title this time, but at the end of this video you will have a finished app sort of. I was building this application as I was recording the video, so this video will be a bit long, but and I'll be debugging a lot, but it will worth the time. So just stick to the end, build the application, and do write in the comment section if you have any problems. So I'll be using Async Task, reason being because while downloading I don't want my application to stop, so I will be using a different thread. Here you can see in the Async Task I can have three parameters like int, float, different things like string, and so three parameters are required. I'll be using two, one for my one for passing the URL and other for getting my output. No progress bar or anything this time. Maybe in the future if I come back to this video. Actually I want to have another, this is a single activity application. I want to add another activity using intent, so maybe I'll be coming back to this video in the future. So this is, I'll be using XML pull parser, and I'll be basically using the same code mentioned here. So not like my app code. I think I've get this code from Stack Overflow and different websites, and just mix them up so that it will be uh, something new. So I will be creating this like let's name it top 10 songs. So it will be an empty activity and not much, but at the end there will be an application that you can use and show. I won't recommend to write in a resume. Maybe you don't want to, because this app doesn't do much, only give you a list. So maybe a fun activity in free time. So uh, with that aside, let's write the code. So to begin with, we need async task class. So let's start with logT, because I need to mention a lot of thing in my logcat. So without writing logT in the starting, you cannot use logT and logE. It won't work. So logD is helpful in debugging the code and seeing if a particular function is being called or not. You can look into your logcat, and it helps a lot. So let's create a class that will extend our async task. Let's name it downloading XML, and extends async task. And I earlier mentioned that I'll be needing like three parameters. So I'll be using like string. Second will be a void because no progress bar. That's like in the progress. So just giving the data, so doing backgrounds, and a post execute after I've downloaded. So you can see there's a red line. This is because we need to use override functions. So you can just press Control and O. This will give you this box where you can select your override functions. I'm using on post execute and do in background. So in output as you can see a string s, which is basically the output of our download XML. And in the doing background you can see strings, which will be our URL. So let's create the object of our class. So naming downloading XML, and it's new downloading XML, basic stuff. With that done, let's where should we call our should do first. So let's create a variable that will check if the URL is correct or not, or if it's working or not. So we're creating a variable like let's say if RSS feed is true, then return RSS, then return this, and if it's not, then return that URL is invalid. So it will be better if I just pass it in my on post execute. Reason being because doing backgrounds actually work after we start a pre process. So in doing backgrounds it wouldn't make sense because it's still downloading and it's not sure. So we'll be using this variable in our on post execute. So string RSS feed equal to download XML, and let's pass an argument which will be our first position of string. Which, I think let's parse it in doing backgrounds. What was I thinking? It doesn't make sense. Like on post execute doesn't cut it. We need to be downloading it. While we are downloading it, we need the URL to be checked. So what was I thinking? Sorry. So what we need is a same thing here, and let's pass our string, which will be a URL, and pass the first string, and let's call if statement, and if RSS feed is not equal to null, then let's if it's not equal to null, it should be passed let's be RSS feed equals 0. So then we'll be if it's equal to null, then log d there will be an error. So let's write so I am doing like this video is slow because people prefer slow videos, so no speed up. So here we have written do in background, and if there's an error, then just print it in our logcat so we can see. And here we'll be returning our RSS feed. Not much. So what happened is then this RSS feed will be in our post execute and different things happen. So I don't want to go in that, but let's first create our download XML so you can better understand what's happening. So here we have passing the arguments being our URL add. This should be like a URL path. So we'll start by having a string builder for our what we are actually doing right now is having our whole that XML file that I showed you earlier of that of the Apple site. So we'll be copying that whole site in our this string builder, and then we'll be returning it in our RSS feed, and then we'll be using the RSS feed to print in a mobile application. So I'll be using a try and catch because there can be various errors like a malfunction URL, or there can be an IO exception, or or even a security mutation that I didn't show you this time. What happened is when you how should I say this, when you give application an access like camera, or you should or like microphone or internet, you should mention it in your manifest file. I will show you what I'm talking about, but that's why if we didn't have mention in a manifest file, then it will show error. So we write a try and catch statement, and we write this security implement. I don't remember the actual name. It's something like that. So let's have a try and catch statement, and in our try I'll first have a URL, variable URL and passing our path. And then we'll be using a HTTP connection, not HTTPS. That can be problematic sometimes. So basic application, so just a HTTP connection this time. And be careful, language is a bit case sensitive, so you don't want to get a P or a wrong. So when the drop down menu appears, just select the function you're looking for. It's much more easier, and it will automatically import mm, the particular widget or particular function, class, whatever. So we are using connection and url.get connection dot open connection. And what this so this can give us an error like an IO exception, so we'll be passing a catch statement here too. That's why it's red right now. So but if I pass this and have a print statement, then you can see this error disappears. So we have now a connection here from our URL. Now we'll be using a buffered reader, in where we will be using an input stream reader and get our input stream from the connection. So I'm writing this in a whole line. You can write in 3 different lines, it doesn't matter, but I'll be doing this this way. So here we have a get message for seeing if there's a particular error. At this point there is going to be one problem that I talked earlier, like we need a permission for accessing internet. You know, when you download an application, it says it requires storage, it asks for permission to access storage, camera, microphones. So I have a buffer reader that I said earlier. I need a buffer reader for having to read everything that I want. So let's name it buffer reader, and let's create a new, let's initialize it, and new input stream reader. And in passing I'll be passing a connection dot get input stream. What it is so it should be connection dot get input stream. So what happens is I have already recorded this video, and then I do voiceovers, because if I am recording my voice while I'm recording the screen, it's not going to be, you won't understand anything. You may not understand when I'm saying right now when I'm looking at the screen while the code is being played, because you will be just hearing so it's not beneficial for anyone to just hear me blabbering about how I hate these semicolons. So we need a int, we need to count the we need a count of how much we want to read. So it's not going, it's like a at particular instance how much character we are going to read. It can be let's say it can be like 8K or one. I'm using like I'll be using like almost like 1000 this time. It depends how much what you're using, how much you want to read at a particular time in a loop. So I have a char array size of 1000. What was I saying, count? Not a count, I mean my array size should be like 1000, so how much I can read at a time, so it would be like 1000. Sorry, I'm just very much irritated by the board right now. So we need a while true condition, and don't worry, we will break out of this loop. If you have a while true condition in your array and there's no break, then your Android application just hangs, and it's not pretty. So I have a count, and I'll be reading it in So when I read, I actually put it in our char. That will be our name input, and it will be starting from 0, and the length will be my so in when I read, I actually put in my inputs, and I didn't write those things here. There is actually read has 3 arguments. So if count greater than is count less than 0, then I break. But that means if it's negative, then there's no point in running the loop, so just break it. If it's greater than 0, then wait and copy what uh, just put it in our array what we are seeing. So just append it to our string builder. So how you use this, we'll be using string dot copy value of. Sometimes this drop down options actually don't help you that much. Just so we'll have string dot value copy the value of our carry that we have already put in our read buffer reader dot read. We actually put in our char in our inputs, and then use our carry array into copy our array into our this string builder, and then we'll be returning it. Obviously when we return it, we'll be converting it to strings, and then we return it. We need few things here, so let's look at what read functions does in our buffer reader. So what it does is that it reads our reader and then copy it into our array as much as it can every time in the loop. So we can just specify some, it's like a batch size sort of that using machine learning. It's not actually that sorry, I have a habit of comparing things, not batch size. So what we are doing is a read function, and storing it on array, and then from array I'll be copying it in my string builder, and then return that string builder at the end when in our RSS feed after converting it to strings. So that's what we have to do. So so far we have done our RSS, we have given permissions to internet, and we have pasted everything. So always one more thing, we need to close our XML file, our buffer reader, and when we close our buffer reader, our input stream and our input stream reader will be closed. So that's a plus point. So the code is written, few things need to be added here. I have to close my buffer reader as well as return my strings. So as you can see, there is a red error, there's an error here. The error is basically because we haven't closed our window. Let's first pass give permission for internet. Give the permission. If you didn't give permission to your internet and you have installed this application, this may not work for you, because so if this doesn't work, then just uninstall your app and reinstall it, and it will work fine. Whenever you make changes to your manifest file, just reinstall it after uninstalling it. So yeah, this is something that I have experienced many times. So then let's return our return null first, and then as you can see, the error is gone now after we have returning null, but we need another thing, another return statement. But before that, let's close our buffer reader. So buffer reader dot close, and return our XML XML and convert it to dot to string, because XML is a string builder. So let's I think it's look fine. Let's run it. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, I have to print it in my logcat to see if it works or not. So let's call our logd and print the string that will be returned. and let's pass the URL of our XML file which we are using. So we're using that Apple top 10 song XML file, and the link of this RSS feed will be given in the description, so check that out. So let's run this now. What we need is so this is going to take some time, and there is going to be an error, error will be clear hypertext. I don't remember actually, but we need to give set clear hypertext graphics to true in our manifest file, so it won't work. Obviously it's not going to show on our phone. We have to look it in our logcat, because we haven't set like a layout to uh, haven't set any layout and then print it on a particular layout. So I don't know why when I open my emulator right now. Let's just check it in my logcat. So let's look up there, and obviously there is an error going on here. So what I usually do is when I get this error is first step, just look at your code and see if you have made a mistake. Second thing, copy that error, paste it in Google, open the first tab which will be of Stack Overflow. That's really helpful, and there are actually a lot of options there for you to try out different things. Sometimes none of them works, sometimes all of them works. So what we have done so far is we have like a post execute function, doing background function, and a download XML file. We in our doing background function, we check the URL and copy everything in our RSS feed through our download XML file, where we open the connection, we get buffer reader, then we read it, copy it in our put it in our array, then copy it to our builder XML, then return it, and if there is some kind of exception or error, then return null. And when we return null, then post execute will say that there's an doing background will say there's an error. So we can actually make a toast. I haven't talked about toast yet, so I won't talk in this video because I haven't shown you, so it'll be enough here. So basically, just to tell you what toast is basically a menu, like a bubble that will pop up in your app if a certain condition is met, like you have programmed it to. I'll show in a future video. It's look really nice, and it adds some touches to application, make it a bit dynamic. So here you can see there are three choices. I'll be using this the third one, I guess. So what I have to do is go into my manifest file, and in our Android I'll just copy the same. I should just copy it. I don't know why I'm writing it. Just write Android, then it's what's it? It's user clear text traffic, and set it to true. And let's uninstall our app and then reinstall it. I'm not gonna get I don't want another error here, so let's reinstall it and then reinstall it. So this video is like an hour long, and this is my first video in hour long, and it's really slow. I should have just speed it up 4 times. So as you can see, we have finally got our XML file here, and now we can do anything with it. We can use its tags to get what we want. Like I will be using titles here, so in our entry tag there's a title tag from which I can copy the particular text that I want. Similarly, we can use images, but we have to use like different modules like Picasso and different things to get our image. So that won't be in this video. Maybe I will use in the part 2 of this video if I do one. So let's create a class where I'll be using a feed entry. What I want is I want an array list of a class objects, and every object will have like a different title. Like like these entries will be like a feed entry. Every feed entry will be like one entry here, and in these entries every entry has different title. So like a class is like a a class is like a blueprint, and an object is like a different entity, a runtime entity. So I will be creating different feed entries, and every feed entry will have different title. So I will be creating a string variable, and I'll use a setter function to set that particular string to say particular thing. Like let's look at an example here, like one margarita, like it shows here. So it will like one margarita be a one class, and other class will be like about BTS or any other song that it has. And that's what I want. So I'll be using a feed entry class, and I need few things here. So I'll be using another class which will be using the XML pull parser that I showed you earlier in starting. We'll be using that particular code, and yeah, let's see what can we get here. So we start by creating let's say a title. I wish they had a description of this video, this song in particular, so I can have a better. Let's get. No, I don't want anything. I earlier thought that I should use like ID, but it's same thing here. Like, there's not much to show. In the ID is like a number that makes no sense. So let's call the getter and setter function. So if you don't know, just press control and N, command and N, sorry, where you can then this drop down menu type will appear, and you can press enter, and it will give you these functions. If it doesn't work for you, just write these functions down. It's not like if you import something here, and then string dot to string, so you can print these things, print a particular title for every object. And we'll be using list view for this. So I'll be creating another class where I'll be using an array list, where the in our brackets I'll be passing feed entry as a particular object. I should say, let's see what I'm talking about here. So I created a class named XML parse. So I'll be I'll be using it to create function that will have an XML pull parser. But before that, let's have a private array list feed entry, and naming it and the getting it like an application here, and we'll be creating a constructor for XML pull parser, where we'll be setting the application to this particular instance. So we're using like this. So let's create private array list feed entry application. Then we need a constructor here for our example parser, and here I'll be using this dot application equal. Should have used a new array list. And I forgot to get the termination here. I mean, skipping, like shifting between Python and Java actually cause problem while programming. Like you forgot termination in one language, then you put termination in the language that you shouldn't put. So just something I want to talk about. So here I have created a constructor, and here I have created an array list feed entry get application, a getter for my application that I'll be using to pass in my list an array adapter. So for this actually, you can see what it does is it's like a for every so it will help for every object. So whenever I create an object, it will print for that print me the title for the particular application. So that's why so I have created a Boolean function where I'll be passing, and what I've set as status to be true. If it's false, then it's a different thing. Then there will be an error here. So for it to then I'll be creating a feed entry object for our current object of our feed entry, initializing it to null. Then a Boolean in entry. What it does is for a particular tag, it will be true, and after we have end that tag, we'll be setting it to false. Firstly, it will be true or false. Then when the tag start, then it will be true. Then we will be copying that text into a particular string, we have used a text here. So here you can see start tag, text, and end tag that I'm talking about here. I'll have the documentation in the description, and I'm using this code here. As you can see, XML push parser factory, XML push XPT, everything is in the developer console, not console, but under com. And let me just check here. So let's create a try catch statement, because this is going to give some errors, particularly like an IR exception, something like that. So let's have a try and catch statement, and let's print that particular error. So print stack trace, and let's start our try statement. We'll be starting with XML pull parser. This video is really slow paced. I don't think anyone is gonna watch this video. If someone is watching this video to this point, man, you have a lot of patience. So XML pull parser equal, let's say pull parser factory equal XML pull parser dot get instance, no, XML pull parser get new instance, and then let's set a factory dot that new that true. Set on new set namespace over true, and then let's create an XML pull parser, and then set it to be equal to XP, then set XPP equal to XML new pull parser. We'll be using XPP to get a event type, and for every event we'll be starting a tag and text, and then ending the tag, looking for titles. So factory dot new pull parser, and XPP dot set input. Let's pass a new string reader, and inside this we should pass like an XML data here that will be passing through our on post execute. So this is basically a RSS feed that we worked on earlier, that we have spent like 20 minutes. So let's have an int event which will be equal to xpp dot get event type. So let's say it's int event type equal to, no, I am not slow in coding. I'm actually being very careful while writing this code, because I have made a lot of mistake last time. Like I got E wrong, F wrong. Like this language is really case sensitive, and so I say a while condition, and while should be like until I'm in the end of documents. So event type not equal to xpp dot get, not so it should be like a XML pull parser dot end document, and I'll have few switch cases here. So before that I need a string, let's say text, tag name, which will be equal to xpp dot get name. So like a entry or a title, these are like a tag names that we'll be looking for, and if it matches a particular description that we given if cases, then we'll be copying it to our string that we mentioned above, like string text. So switch event type, so have few cases here. If it's, let's say if XML pull parser and we get a, let's say start tag, and let's have a if condition here. If event dot equal ignore cases, then will be, what's the name here, entry, sorry, entry dot equal ignore cases. Then we have to actually set our in entry to be equal to true, that we started with false. That means we have found an entry, and we will be going inside an entry and looking for our particular tag. What am I doing? So I think, yeah, I actually made a mistake here. So I won't talk about the mistakes. Like I'm adding an object here which is a null object right now. Actually this code is for my false my end tag, and actually I was looking on a screen and actually missed, just let it play. So else if, well, I finally figured it out. No, we need tag name here. So what we want to do is, if entry dot implement equal ignore cases tag name, then set our in entry to be true, and also let's create that null object to be, let's create a new object for, so current object is equal to new feed entry. So now in entry is true, and now we'll be having a text. That particular text will be copied in our string text. So first let's break through this case, and this part, let's break through this case, and second case will be what, XML pull parser dot text. And let's put, what should we put, let's put text is equal to dot get text, what am I saying, xpp dot get text here, and yeah, let's and break through this case too. Breaking through case is important. If you don't break, then you are in a particular case and it will be always be running, and it won't be good. I am really bored talking about this video now. So if what am I doing? Yeah, finally we are in the code that I was earlier writing in my start tag. So if in entry is true, if in entry basically means if it's true, then run this condition, and I'll be putting again my if entry dot equal ignore cases. If it's done, then we'll be adding that particular to our current record. Then we're adding that object here. So application dot get application dot add. So we're using entry. And let's say feed current object, and then let's have else if it's title, then add it to our then which equal to tag name, then then particular then current object dot set title will be passing this string. Remember that we create a set title in our that function. In our feed entry, we created a set title and we will be passing a string there. So here from here we'll be passing that string and setting the text to particular, then setting a title here from that string. So let's set a default. And nothing here. Let's break through this and return. This is a boolean, so we need to return something here. So let's return status false. If catch is if we encounter catch, then so let's have a event dot type here, and event equal to xpp dot next. So moving to next event. If we are not moving, then we are just iterating to the same event every time, and it won't make any sense. Let's print what we'll be getting here. So what we want from this particular line of code is a title, only title. So to print, we have to call our .toString function that we made in our feed entry class. Oh, we forgot to create log t here. If you don't create log t, then you cannot use the log t. So now we can use a particular log t that we want. We want to print our .toString function that we create in our class feed entry. So this for loop is doing is like iterating through every object of our particular array list of our feed entries. So that was like app and application basically like an array list object of our array list. So let's have like a app dot toStrings. toStrings, and then we need is what should I say? I think this is what we need basically, and it should work. But I know it's not going to work. There's an error here. That error is very dumb. Like you cannot even imagine. Oh yeah, we forgot to mention the return statement here. Return will be our status, and it will be true until we encounter an exception. If we encounter an exception, then let's have a status to be true. Let's have status to be false. Let's go up here and print status. And yeah, we forgot a semicolon here that I was mentioning earlier. Guys, you can follow me on Twitter also, where I rant about how I hate different programming languages and a particular and with my reasons for why. So we finally cannot see the toString that we used to print particular titles. The reason is null pointer exception. You cannot you can see that particular set title that is being flashing up there. Yeah, the object is null. But you'll be like, but bro, you have created a new object there, then what's the error? The error is like when I created the object, a new object, uh, it was in a particular section of else else condition, and my else if condition is out of that particular section. Like you can see me, I know that. So I figured that out too late when I actually search for when I search for that particular exception. Like I hate these bots, man. I hate these bots. They're so irritating. And when you're creating an hour-long video, you cannot even do retakes. Like if I'm doing retakes, I'll be stuck all day here. So the error is null point exception, and I won't be able to figure that out for next 5 minutes. So we are here to talk, and I'll be talking about this code. Let's recap what we have done so far. Let's recap. We have created an array list of objects for a feed entry. We have created a way to get the particular object. So we had that get application that we'll be using in our array list, in our array adapter, that I'll be talking in a moment. But what I want to talk about is my Boolean function. What we do is we have created a status. We will be returning the status in, because it's a Boolean function, I have to return a Boolean. So I'll be using status. Status will be false if we encounter a let's say catch. If we encounter any runtime exception, then we'll be putting status to false. If it's true, then it's okay. And then we have a end entry which will be false in starting. If in entry is true, then that means we have encountered that. That means we have encountered an entry tag. Then in entry tag we'll be looking for a tag name, or a particular tag name, that is our title tag. When we encounter title tag, then we'll putting the text that we have copied. That's particular string that we used, string title, string text. So that text will be passing in our set title, that the function that we created in our feed entry class. And what it will do, it will set the title, that particular title variable, to the particular text in our title tags. Yeah, I know it's a bit too much for just copying a particular text, but yeah, it's required, and that's what we are doing here. And the error is, in this whole code, when we return the Boolean function and everything, we didn't created the XML parse object. Yeah, we didn't create the XML parse object that I'm creating right now, because if we haven't created a XML parse object and we are not calling the function, then how we are expecting that function to give us results? So that's one error that I find out. And other error being that null pointer exception that we can now see once I run this code. Yeah, I also need to do one thing here. I'll be checking if this function works or not by using logd in our logcat. So logd is basically debugging, used for debugging. So and it will be helpful this time. So you can see we still cannot see our list of titles. So let's create some logds here. It's really funny. You can actually see that there is an error up. If I just scroll up a bit, you can actually see null point reception. But so what I want now is how should I say, like I waste so much time looking for a quote. At this point I was having high hopes that maybe somewhere it is hidden, but it wasn't there. So, and guys, you can follow me on Twitter also if you because I rant about how I hate different languages, and I think it's funny. So you should follow me on Twitter. So guys, I have skipped some part here because I don't want to show you me debugging the code for 10 minutes. So as you can see, we have I have now figured out my past self has figured out the error that being in our if condition. So you can see, first of all, the if condition here, I have put a semicolon. There should be a like a curly bracket like thing that I should have put here, but the whole error was because of particular semicolon that I have put in there that I shouldn't have, and that's the whole reason why I was getting an error and I was stuck for like an hour. So let's change those brackets, and now I think I will be able to run this code. I should, but I've actually made one more change. I want to show you that, but the screen just don't scroll up a bit, otherwise I would have. Remember that we have created the get application, not the constructor where we used this dot application. That we have I added another line there, that this dot application should be equal to new array list, just new array list, nothing else, just new array list. So every time I create a class, so just pause the screen and look at that particular line. Now we should just work on a layout because you have everything that you want. So first of all, let's delete this hello world widget, and then let's drag our, just search in the palette list view and drag it to our main layout, and then set the constraints. I talk about this all the time because we don't want widgets to be floating. And then just give this list view an ID. I'm writing like let's first set the constraints to match parents. Okay, that's fine. And then I want it to be, I want to give it an ID also. But first let's create a text view here, a text view layout, in which we will be storing our title for every feed entry, so that we want here. So go into your res, the layout, create new layout resource file, and name it anything you want. So but in the root element just set text view, and in the file name set it and then name it text view, list view, let's say. And what gonna happen is the list view will have a list of text views, and every text view will represent a feed entry object, list of feed entry, particular object in that feed, in that list of objects. And let's give the ID to our list view, into our text view. So it's gonna be simple, like our list view ID will be like list views, like I'm an original, so I don't have any better name to give, so let's say list views, list view, and our text view ID will be like text views. Like I don't care that much, we're not gonna need this, so let's name it anything, and let's get to our main activity. And now we need to create our private list view variable. So let's start by writing a private, and then list views. So just press the enter because it will be imported, those widgets will be imported automatically. So let's name the variable list songs, and what we want is we want to create an array adapter so that we can link our array list and our list view. So this next time I'll use a custom adapter, not this time. So I'm just using just we need 2 more lines of code here. So let's go to our on post execute. Now let's first link our layout first. So we need list songs equal to, let's name list view and find view by ID, find view by ID, and r dot id dot what's the name, list views. And then press semicolon. So that's our list. And another thing we need is now we should get to our on post execute method, and here we'll be linking our layout. Oh, what the hell is happening here? I don't know what's the problem with this Mac keyboard. Is like whenever I try to press enter, it's press shift key and then it's like need that scissor switch keyboard right now. It's really costly, but so yeah, we need where we were here in the post execute method. We need to create an array adapter. So in the array adapter we will be passing our like feed entry, and let's name it array adapter and equal to say new and array adapter, and let's pass 3 arguments here. First is context, which will be in this particular file. So let's say main activity of this. Second will be our name of our list, our file, which will be list view. So r.id.layout.list view. And third thing we need is a XML parser.get application. What and then okay, now let's set the adapter. So list song dot set adapter. So we are very close now. The app is almost finished. And so let's pass our adapter here, and then let's run this, and it will work. It should work. Like really, like an hour-long video is very difficult to record, especially with all these disturbances in the background. So let's see. Yeah, finally we have a list of top 10 songs in Apple Music. So it's like One Margarita, Binding Lights, Rain on Me, and we can do some changes so that it looks a bit better. So let's delete this feed entry and everything that it mentions. So let's delete this, and let's add some /n's because our list to be a bit bigger. It had to look like a list. So what can I do here? Let's see. First of all, now we have deleted feed entry, so it's still a bit dull. I mean, I wish I could show you that the application code, but it's almost the same. That the code is almost same. Like literally, this code is exactly almost similar to that code, just a different URL and few more lines of code. If you want, you can just use a XML of a particular news RSS feed, but by taking the permission, because these things are copyrighted. So now, yeah, it looks better. And guys, if you want a part 2 of this with a few more few more changes, do write in the comment section. If you have any questions, write in the comment section. If you like this video, like, press the bell icon, like the video, press the bell icon, subscribe to the channel. I'm really exhausted at this point, so just read these lines. And if you want to make an application like this, just check my channel. I'll have a link in the description.